Hello and welcome back to the Villa Filler podcast. No, your eyes do not deceive you. I have combed my hair today. There's plenty of comments about that, so don't you worry, guys. And it's a bit. Can you allow it for being a little bit messy because I have been at the game today. But yeah, anyway, enough about my hair. There's been too many comments about that recently. Dan, Liverpool 1, Aston Villa 0. First of all, mate, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. I think it must mean the pod's going in the right direction if the only negative comments we're getting about our hairstyles now. Because before it was about our opinions.
Yeah,
So I guess now that the only thing that the people have got to turn to is our haircuts. Suggests that maybe we're starting to finally speak some sense on the show. So is that a bit of a backhanded compliment, maybe, mate?
I guess it is. I'm seeing the comments from Joe as well. Dan Wiseman for Prime Minister. Even though I've
Yep.
taken some pelters, we're feeling the love in the comments, guys. We're feeling the love, and I think that's the vibe at Villa at the moment. To kind of lead on to today, it's just been a massive Gerrard wank fest, hasn't it? For want of a better expression, over the past week, this game's been bigged up so much, and unfortunately I've had my hand in that as well, but that's a completely different story. It's 1-0 against Liverpool. First of all, Dan, it's certainly not a bad scoreline to lose by any stretch of the imagination. Coming into this game as well, I know you said on the last podcast, Dan, it felt like a free hit. I totally get that, and in some respects I also felt like that as well, but there were instances in this game, Dan, where opportunities were presented to Villa, and it was almost just a matter of lacking aggression or maybe being set up a bit too defensively today. I think on another day, Villa get a point in this game, Dan.
Yeah, yeah. It's the same. It's the same feeling after the City game in a way, isn't it? Because it's sort of like, because we played so well, maybe it could have been different. And but that's a good feeling. That's a good finish. You can't feel negatively about that. You have to try and spin that positively. And I think that's what we sort of have to do. As I said after the City game, and I think it's the same today because it sort of becomes you can get stuck in that game of if buts and maybes and everything like that, or you can look at it today and sort of think, you know what, despite the fact we lost, I can't really fault anybody. I think it's just one of those games where Villa didn't quite have the rub of the green, and you're right, on another day could have had a point. And I think when you're sort of thinking like that, and when we're talking about sides the caliber of City and Liverpool, and we're feeling this way, and we're sort of thinking, you know what, as I said, another day could have had a draw there. That's really positive, mate. It shows how far we've come in such a short space of time. And for me, sort of, it sets us up really nicely because now we have games against teams that are more the ones we expect to take points from. I think that's what that I said this on the last podcast is that we can sort of get what we do from this game, and then it's the next game, particularly the next game against Norwich, that we need to go and take points from. And I think as long as we do, and I expect that we will, I've got no problems today with it all.
No, we have got some winnable games. I'd even say must-win games for Gerrard, certainly with how positively things have started. But of course, when you're performing well and not necessarily getting the results in games like this in City, as you alluded to, Dan, these are the games where we absolutely have to pick up points. There is no room for, well, we played well. We were unlucky. It was a soft penalty or whatever against the likes of Norwich and Burnley. That is just how it works. I know you know that. I know everyone else knows that. But yeah, just on Villa today and how they set up, it was what frustrated me, Dan, and complete and utter respect to Steven Gerrard for coming out in his post-match interview and admitting when he was wrong. It's quite refreshing, really. We never really had that with Dino. There was always a sort of bag of excuses. As much as I love the man, he admitted that he got it too wrong. He left his substitutes too late and was too cautious. There was a sort of 15-minute spell in this game, Dan, where Villa really had Liverpool on the ropes. And if it wasn't for just, again, Matt Targett not being able to cross a ball, Matty Cash not being able to cross a ball, or just that final pass that's just missing, Villa could have got something. And for me, the biggest difference between this game and the Manchester City game is the aggression that Villa showed in that second half against Manchester City. I feel like if Villa had that same application in this game, it's a completely different story. Because, again, Liverpool are fantastic. I do not expect Aston Villa to go to Anfield and turn them over 3-0. But, a point that I've made over the past sort of few days, Dan, is if Liverpool win this game, it is going to be very hard fought and hard earned on their behalf. And I can't really, I think that is true today. I think that's true. I think I probably need some more time to think about it. But I wanted that tenacity. I wanted that aggression. I wanted that dynamism that we saw in that second half against Manchester City. Because for that, as I say, for that 15 minutes, Dan, Villa really, they let Liverpool know that we were there and they still had a game that they had to see out.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, I think, I was listening to, I had the game on some dodgy stream. It was an Irish broadcast. And obviously a lot of, I'm sure we probably have some Irish listeners. And I'm sure as the well know, Liverpool and Manchester United tend to dominate over in Ireland. So the commentary was overwhelmingly biased in favour of Liverpool, which made for a great listen. Thoroughly enjoyed that, as you can well imagine. Oh, beautiful. But they were sort of being quite critical of Villa, especially when we did rally late on, sort of saying, it's all too little, too late for Aston Villa and all this sort of stuff. And I thought, maybe it wouldn't have been too little if Danny Ings does get that penalty, but too late perhaps. But you have to sort of contextualize that, and I think we got into the game at that stage because of what Liverpool have been doing. We saw how we tried to play out from the back, and they loved pressing us. Anfield got all over us, and it was like they'll do that all day. And so naturally they tire. And I think that's why we got a leg into the game at that point, because Liverpool, as good as they are and as much as they love doing it, they obviously can't do that for 90 minutes, especially when Villa were giving them a game. But I do think that there's a game plan. Clearly, Gerrard spoke about in his press matches that we wanted to get to a point in the game where we could bring on Buendia and Ings and then take the game to Liverpool. And I think we would have been able to do that had it been not for the penalty. So the game plan was very nearly executed, and on a level playing field. Who knows? Who knows if that game could have been more topsy-turvy. But I felt for the whole game, it was very frantic. It was like it played at this furious tempo. I don't think, although Liverpool definitely dominated for a lot of the game, it felt very scrappy. Obviously, the conditions didn't help that. It was a sort of a very quite a chaotic game for most periods. And I think as the away side, it's difficult to stamp your authority on that. Naturally, the home crowd will get behind the home team and they'll see the better of those situations. I think we didn't make enough use of the long ball today for me. I think we proved several times against Man City, particularly, that if you go long into Watkins, he can pin the very best. And he had Virgil worried at some time at points in the game. It's like, he was up against Ruben Diaz in that game, and sometimes we try and play through the press, which I absolutely insist on. By the way, it's clear that that's Gerrard's ethos. It's clear that that's what he wants the players to do. Michael Beale as well, but the best sides know when to go short and when to go long. I mean, we saw Virgil do it many times, just these long raking passes. They're always looking for balls over the top of the defense. It's not unattractive to play that way, and it can be really useful at times. And I do think that's probably my only criticism of Villa's approach to this game is that, I mean, we've seen the best of the best go to Anfield and fail under that press. And I thought we were perhaps a little bit naive to try and do that for the whole 90 minutes.
I think the thing is, and this isn't necessarily a criticism on the fullbacks as much as it is about the system. With the 210s, the width has to come from the fullbacks, and understandably so, as the average positions will tell you, Dan. Villa's fault, Cash and Target were pinned back, and they're going to be when you've got the likes of Trent Alexander-Arnold and Andy Robertson, marauding down their respective wings. That's naturally going to keep them guys penned in. But as you say, that outball that Villa didn't very often play was actually, it's on if you've got wingers the quick wingers specifically. You know, there was a few instances. Ashley Young rounded Alexander-Arnold, rounded Alisson once or twice as well. There was unfortunately, you know, too many bodies in the box for anything to come of them early chances. But there were instances where I felt like having JJ and Ashley Young in the side, you know, whilst sort of defensively it made sense, because, you know, if you play this fixture another 10 times, Dan, Liverpool probably win 2 or 3-0, 7 or 8 other times. And it's totally circumstantial. Had Leon Bailey, Bertrand Traore, you know, had any sort of pacey winger been on the pitch, it's a completely different game, because, you know, as you said, Ollie Watkins was isolated for large portions of this game. And when that ball was being played up to him and he had sort of no one around him, I think that's where Villa really lacked, because more, as I say, more often than not, Alexander-Arnold and Robertson were camped in Villa's final third. So there was only ever three Liverpool players essentially on the halfway line. If you're looking at your Fabinhos, your Matips, your Virgils, and in a 3-on-3 with the likes of Bailey, Buendia, you know, obviously who came on, Traore or Watkins, you would fancy Villa to create 1 or 2 more chances, which is frustrating. And I tweeted earlier, Douglas Luiz. I didn't tweet about Douglas Luiz, but I'm going to talk about Douglas Luiz. I thought he had a really impressive game. And someone who made him look really good, Dan, when he came on, who I did tweet about, was Emi Buendia. Villa just looked so much more dynamic and quicker in the pass. And, you know, 1-2s were getting thrown about here, there, and everywhere. Again, that probably what contributed to that, as well as having Morgan Sanson on the field. You know, we had 3 midfielders who could pass the ball. I love you, Marv, but, you know, you have such high pass completion rates, but they're short passes. We have to acknowledge that they're short passes. Villa looked so much better for having Emi Buendia on the pitch, Dan.
Yeah, because he's press resistant.
Yeah,
you know, we have such a mobile and technical midfield there that you know, when you press Sanson, when you press Luiz, you trust them. And Marv has got a lot better in this regard, but this is the best pressing team in the world. That we're talking about here is, you know, this is absolutely no slander when I say, you know, as I said, I've sort of used this point, but we've seen so many midfielders crumble under the Liverpool press. Man City have gone there in recent years and, you know, had 3 or 4 goals put past them. You know, this is when Liverpool are on it that no one can stop them. But it's a very press resistant team, and I didn't think Young had his finest hour, and I think Emi, bless him, had that been, you know, 08-09 Ashley Young, it might have been a different story. But this is, you know, this is 21-22 Ashley Young, and he hasn't quite got those quick feet, and he's not as nimble, he's not as agile. And Emi came on, and that's exactly what he is. And I think when I talked about that frantic, scrappy game, those little touches around the corner, the little 1-2s to just free you a pocket of space to get you out of that sort of engine room, that can be what can change a game. And I think it was meant for Emi. It's difficult to say perhaps all game, but those are the situations where Emi's been used to playing as well. You know, you have to think that when Emi has played in the Premier League, it's been for a side that's been on the back foot. You know, I think that's perhaps why, you know, Emi's only game time in the Premier League's been with Norwich, and even against the very worst sides, they're not often on top, are they? And so it's sort of, these are relatively familiar situations for him. And I think we saw that he looked very comfortable, but we have to give him his cookies, mate. He's looked, every time he's come on against Palace, you know, he had a massive hand in John McGinn's goal. Every time he's come off the bench recently, he's looked really impressive. And now with Ings coming back as well, where that selection dilemma that was eased up because of injuries now looks harder again. Trezeguet's back on the bench as well. You know, good to see him, but it's hard to imagine he's got, unfortunately, much of a future in that Villa first team. That selection dilemma is back, and we've seen that Gerrard's trusted Young a lot, but considering he didn't have his best game, Buendia came on and played well. We'll definitely see some changes because we've only got a short turnaround before Norwich. It'd be a nice game for Buendia to play in. It wouldn't be surprising for me if we saw him start.
Yeah, I think on Buendia, there's been a lot of discussion and debate. Some of it, I would say justified, Dan, when you're talking about price tag and sort of output so far. But the one criticism that I just can't get my head around, Dan, I just can't. Even right now, I'm saying it to you, Dan, and I know you are not going to understand this either. Emi Buendia having an attitude problem. I don't understand it. Like,
it's not the take.
Listen, like when we're talking about players with attitude problems, like Ross Barkley's attitude was stinking, right? When he's like kicking stuff on the sideline and he's complaining, he's getting brought off. When he's just been generally absolute garbage, as Ross Barkley was for much of last year, that's an attitude problem, right? But Emi Buendia being frustrated when he's being pulled off because, in some circumstances, had he have had more time on the pitch, he probably creates more chances. He's still, trying to understand the role, integrate into a team, a new city, another new manager, because, let's not forget he's gone through like 3 managers since the summer, if we're including Daniel Farker in that as well. I just can't get my head around this whole, I don't like Emi Buendia. I think he's got an attitude problem. I think he cares deeply. I think he's frustrated. I think he knows that, he knows what he's capable of. We all know what he's capable of. Championship Player of the Year last season, Dan. The season before, created the 4th most chances in the Premier League for Norwich, who looked abysmal, absolutely abysmal. And he was still pulling up trees there. There's a player here, and it's pure frustration on his behalf, which is for me at least totally justified.
Mate, we were only saying last week that sometimes these boys, especially when they come up from the Championship, need a bit of time.
Yeah.
Look how long it's taken Marv. Marv was playing, not just champion. Marv was playing not Championship, but Champions fucking League, mate. And look how long it's taken him to finally show his true colours. It's like there is an expectation of, like, rightly or wrongly, when you spend that much money on a player, that they come in and hit the ground running. It's not always the case. Sometimes it does take that little bit of time to finally show what they can do. It's players come in from all over the world, even from some of the best leagues. You look at some of the players that arrived in this season to far better teams than us. Look at the impact that Saul hasn't had yet at Chelsea. You look at his midfield partner. Yes, Jack Grealish, another example, mate. Jorginho was hated by Chelsea fans when he first arrived, and now he's a staple in that team. It's like the best players from around the world can come into this league and find it difficult, mate, regardless of who they were or what they were doing beforehand. Emi will get there. He's finally starting to flicker. We've seen glimpses of it. He scored a great goal for us already. He's already picked up a couple of assists here and there. He will definitely get there. I think let's not forget as well, his role has been incredibly complex. What was he under Dean? Was he a 10? Was he a winger? Dean didn't seem to know how to use him. So as far as I'm concerned, anything pre-Gerrard is a write-off for Buendia, because he wasn't, his role wasn't clear. It's a very tumultuous period for him, moving to a different city, to a completely new team where expectations are totally different. He had a pretty tumultuous summer in his own right as well. He was in the preliminary squad for the Copa America, then he was dropped out. So it's been a topsy-turvy 6 months for the lad. And he will definitely get there. He will definitely get there. I would like to see him, as I said, get that nod midweek, because I think it's a stage for him to really go and show what he can do on a ground where he should be more than comfortable. I'd really like to have a look at him properly for a full 90 minutes under this new manager in this new system, because with those tighter sort of wingers, those inside forwards, drifting into those central roles from the wing, which we saw him do so many times for Norwich, that might just be where we get the best out of him.
Absolutely, man. And again, I kind of just want to circle back to Dougie, because I think he had a really good game, and I think we need to say that because I think there's this opinion of Douglas that he's overrated, and I think I would agree with that to a certain extent. I feel like we have, both of us, Dan, we've been sort of guilty of I know we've both said on occasion, Dan, we thought he was the best 6 in the league last season. We've said that. Them words have come out of our mouths. But a really good game from Douglas, and he's so important to the way Villa play and the role he's occupied, as well as McGinn. Actually, they're almost playing like quarterback. is the best way I can describe it. They're kind of they're dynamic in sort of getting up and down the pitch. We're seeing Dougie in this freer role now. Marv's stepped in and is holding down that sort of base of the midfield. But when we're seeing Tiggs and Kashi Bomon, we're seeing Dougie and John sort of dropping into these, as I say, quarterback positions, where they're sort of they're almost covering for them. And I just, again, I'm just going to read a few stats just because Douglas, he's really impressed me today, Dan. 84% pass accuracy. He played 5 long balls, all of which were accurate. 2 successful dribbles, won 9 of his 12 duels on the ground. 5 tackles. What more can you want from him? I think, all of those things that I've read out are things that we've criticised Douglas for in the past. Easily being beaten by a man, a poor decision making in passing at times, and not being physical enough. And when it mattered, and this isn't just today. He was fantastic against Manchester City. He was fantastic against Leicester. He's really finding his feet now, and I think it helps. Again, oh my God, Dan, we're sat here saying, look at the work Gerrard's done with our midfield again, but it's true. Douglas has been key in ever since Gerrard's arrival.
This is what we hope would happen, mate. This is, you surely were a sponge if you're a centre midfielder under Steven Gerrard. You spend hours with the guy, and I think we've seen a lot from Dougie that really warms me a lot, because there is always the worry that it always sort of hinders me that he never got that shot at City, which must hinder him in a way that he never got the shot there. It was only because of visa problems that he never got to play there. And sort of, I can't imagine there's too many boys growing up on the streets of Rio thinking, God, I would love to play for Aston Villa. But unfortunately, so I always worried that it was never the end goal for him, and that he got sucked into this sort of relegation battle, and that he could never really find a role. Was he a 6? Was he an 8? We were losing a lot of games. He was getting quite a lot of criticism. As I said, it was a sort of best of a bad situation at first between him and Marvis Nakamba. And look at what he's become, man. Look at what he's become. It really warmed me to see him going toe-to-toe with Fabinho today, because as 2 Selecao teammates, he showed that he's got every right to be in that Brazil squad as Fabinho does. It was a really nice duel. Some really nice moments where the two of them were really going at it. And Dougie's not got the stature to be like picking up those kind of numbers in that kind of midfield, mate. You put him up on the sides like the likes of Henderson or Fabinho, and you think it's a mismatch, but Dougie's got this tenacity and this aggression to go out and really hold his own, mate. And it's so un-Brazilian. In that sense, or I say that now, it's probably more characteristic of the Brazilian midfield than we think nowadays. But yeah, brilliant to see, mate. I'm really happy for him. I hope he's really happy here, because as I said, another player that had a tumultuous arrival at the Villa, and is it's taken him this long to find his true form, and we're really seeing the best of him. And I think now that Sanson's back, I think that will indirectly help Luiz as well, because he can be a little bit more expressive. He's got someone that technically is probably on his wavelength in that midfield. And if you put those two next to each other with him again, if you can make that midfield work, then that's really exciting, because there's 3 really good ball players there, 3 players who can carry the ball, which is 2 separate things, isn't it? It's like to be truly press resistant, you have to be able to pass the ball under pressure, and you have to be able to beat a man under pressure. And you back all 3 of those players there. And so I think that's perhaps why we're getting better at going toe to toe with these teams, because so often it is won or lost in the midfield. And thanks to players like Dougie having games like he did today, it helps us make a game of it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think, talk to us about the penalty, Dan, because it'd be rude not to. We'll talk about Liverpool's first. I think we're both in agreement, Dan. Very soft. Salah plays for the contact. What's new? They'd already done that about 3 or 4 times in the first half. But again, Dan, goalkeepers union, I want you to be completely unbiased. It looks like, you've probably seen it more than I have, Dan. It looks like there are some stills of Alisson with his hand on Danny Ings' thigh. Am I correct there? Is there contacts made before he engages with the ball?
It's so difficult to get the order right. I was howling for the penalty at first. Upon second, as you said, goalkeepers they have a rule on tackles that is completely different to any other player. It's like you can literally do whatever you want to a striker to foot him in the head, but if you get a fingernail on the ball, if you make contact with the ball, then you're in the clear. And he does get a touch on the ball. You can drop a still in there where he's like all over Danny Ings, but I don't think that paints the full story. I think this one is one where Alisson's lucky. I'll put it that way. I think that's the way I can sum it up. I think you can give it either way. I think he's lucky. I don't think either of them, if I'm being completely honest, I don't really think either of them should have been penalties. I think when I first saw the Salah one, I thought it was nailed on, but he sort of steps across Tyrone Mings. The more I see it, I actually think he fouls Tyrone. But in the modern day and age, mate, if in the modern day and age, we see this every week. It doesn't matter the Premier League, it doesn't matter where you look across Europe, you see these kind of decisions. And it's almost something you have to factor in now when you square up with a man in the penalty area. The fact that not only do you have to be careful when you go and get the ball, the fact that when you go near them, you have to watch them trying to lean their body weight into you, stick their leg across you. And it's very clever. It's so, unless you're really looking for it, it's so, you wouldn't see it to the untrained eye, but because we see it so much, you look for this sort of stuff now. And Salah's mastered a dark art, and it's one that you can't. The problem is, if you want referees to clamp down on it, you have to be okay with them spending 5 minutes staring at a VAR screen, because genuinely that's how long these things can take to finally spot. I can't count how many times I've seen that penalty incidents and finally come to the conclusion that actually it might even be a foul on Tyrone, but you have to sort of pick your poison, really. But yeah, on an ideal day, neither of them would have been penalties. But Stuart Atwell was getting it from the Liverpool fans. We've seen that human error can play into that a couple of times, and I think unfortunately it's been given, and the Danny Ings one hasn't. But I mean, in my ideal world, mate, neither of them are pens.
Well, I mean, Chelsea had 2 penalties today, Dan. Man City, United both had a penalty in their game, which all proved to be vital penalties and led to them sides winning their respective games. I think that's all we need to say on that, to be honest, Dan.
Yes,
with Norwich coming up next, as we said earlier, it has to be 3 points. It has to be 3, and then it has to be another 3 points against Burnley, Dan.
Dean has them playing very well. I think we should caveat with that. Dean has really turned these guys around.
It's funny though, because he's kind of gone in and done exactly what he needed to do at Villa. Stop playing a 5-back, and wow, all of a sudden Norwich look like they can play football. Sounds like they were hard done by with the penalty again, but it's going to be a tough game. Dean Smith is going to want to win this game for many reasons. And Steven Gerrard almost needs to win this game, Dan, to just sort of get things back on track. Not that it's sort of deviating, but of course we've got some tough fixtures. We've got Chelsea coming up on Boxing Day. It's just one of them ones, isn't it, Dan? We're currently sat in 12. Of course, some teams still have to play. I think Everton and Palace both have a game in hand as it stands. So, games are coming thick and fast. We've got some exciting news probably for you with the next podcast in respect of, just the direction of the channel and stuff. I think that's all we can say on that for now, Dan. But yeah, I think the one thing I've learned, save political jokes for the end, so as we can keep the engagement higher, as we lost someone after a minute and a half due to my shit hair and saying Kieran Dewsbury Hall, who scored the other night, sounds like he votes Conservative. I didn't think that was particularly.
What a terrible thing to say.
I know.
How dare you have a sense of humour, mate?
How dare I?
You can't make comments like that. It's the internet.
We have to be serious, Dan. We have to be serious.
It's a joke, mate. It's a joke.
Before we go, it'd be rude not to talk XG. Liverpool 2.23 to Aston Villa's 0.91. Not a fair reflection on how this game went. Let me tell you that. But some wonderful saves from our Emmy kept us in this game at times. I feel like we could have walked away from this 0-0, Dan, but that's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes, isn't it, mate?
It is. It is, unfortunately, mate. We've seen it all too many times. But look, man, good chance we take 6 points from the next two games, and that would set me up very nicely for Christmas.
Absolutely. I think that's all that we want. That's all we can ask for. And to anyone who is making that long and arduous journey to Carrow Road on Tuesday night, enjoy. Good luck. I hope you come back with 3 points. And yeah, I'm buzzing for the Burnley game, mate. Especially as Cornet's injured. That's a big plus because he's playing really well. I think that's all from me, Dan. Any final words from yourself, mate?
Yeah, actually, I do. Got to give
you've made a change.
Yeah, I know. Quick shout out, mate. To this is a funny story, right? And I got to give it its credit on the pod. It happened a couple of weeks ago, and I've been forgetting to give this guy a shout out. So my mum's sat in. She's got like a gym membership at this hotel near where we live. And she sat in the spa, in the sauna, and a guy comes in and he's like, "Are you Dan Wiseman's mum?" And she was like, yeah, this is how I understand. So I hope this guy will be listening. So I know he's asked my mum since that I haven't given him the shout out. So I know he's listening. So if I've not told the story right, correct me down below, because this is just how she told me it. So she sat in the sauna and she's like, "Are you Dan Wiseman's mum?" I'm like, well, she's like, yeah. How do you know that? And she's like, "Well, I've seen you around a couple of times. And I saw you like sign your name in like Wiseman. And I'm a big fan of the Villa filler. And I know
what a guy.
Dan's name is Wiseman, so I just thought I would ask. She was like, yeah, and he was like, "Oh my god, I love it. I'm watching every week. Like, wow. Make sure you." Like, so yeah, really, even my mom's getting the clout from this show, mate. So yeah,
Claire, man.
I think it began with a J. I may be wrong. That's my mom's guess. So if it's anything, like, I can't give your name true. I don't want to call you like Jack or something in case it's not, but you know who you are if you're listening. You're a real one. Thanks for that.
That's wicked. As well, like, one thing, guys, if you see us, please do come and say hi. Like, it's great. I forgot to ask this lady, but she came up to me in the lower Holte a few weeks ago now and said she loved the podcast. I was quite taken aback by it because, I mean, I think the only person who's approached me before has been Anthony. Shout out to Anthony, the security guard. When I was, I think it was the Crystal Palace game behind closed doors when I was working. But yeah, if you see us, like, please don't hesitate to say hi. I saw, I think you know this guy Dan. I know he follows us both on Twitter and listens to the podcast. He's a great guy, Dom Hill. I saw him today. Great guy. Brief conversation, but yeah. Shout out to you, Dom. And yeah, if you see us, just say hi because
yeah, for real,
it's a conversation. That's the whole reason why we do this. And this is kind of it's taken off and become what it is during lockdown when we've not been able to see anyone. So if you do ever see us at Villa Park or at away games, please, don't feel like you can't approach us. We won't bite. I mean, there's someone who's actually asked for a photo with their girlfriend with you, Dan, wasn't there as well?
Yeah, that was.
I mean, you get recognised more than me. This has happened a few times. I mean, you're tall, you're handsome, you got the beard. What can
it's what it takes to be Prime Minister, mate.
Exactly. Wiseman for Prime Minister.
Get
that in the comments, guys. Get that in the comments. So yeah, if you enjoyed this podcast, hit a like. Don't hesitate to come and see us. Comment your thoughts below. # Wiseman for Prime Minister. And subscribe for more content. We're so close to 5,000 subscribers. I think we should just say that we're giving away a shirt when we hit 5,000 subscribers. So just subscribe if you're not subscribed. So yeah, up the Villa.